Hey people, how's it going? Welcome back. I got part 3 of my base building tutorial. This is the stage where we're going to build this structure here up on top. This is the, like the human quarters. We've got workshops, kitchens, smelting, intake, gardens, and bedrooms up here, and storage. And it sits up on the top. You got a nice perch. You can see out across the world, and you're pretty much safe from random dinos showing up and trying to bite at you. But yeah, this is going to take a lot of time, so I'm going to mostly speed through a lot of this. What I'm going to do, the first stage of this is laying down this outline of where all the walls will go. I lay it all down with these fence foundations. And there's only a couple of things to note. These corners. A couple of the corners, they won't line up perfectly. This is one of them. So you snap this to the midpoint of the ceiling. Don't snap it to the corner of the fence foundation. And there's another one. Well, there's 4 total corners like this, but it's mirrored. So there's 2 on each side. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit more. Yeah, I'll show zoom out of the general shape. You can copy the shape. Remember that the right side, whenever you're placing, is the outside. So certain areas of this, you want the outside to be, on your right. You want the outer wall to be on your right. And some of the interior walls have an edge, an inside and an outside also to keep in mind. So just pay attention to what direction your walls are facing. I check it from time to time, just like that, to see. And flip them with triangle. So here, this is an interior wall, and I'm snapping the 45-degree on this inside part, not the outer part over there. So this is another one of the walls that won't perfectly line up. Right here. It will overlap like that. That's supposed to happen right there. That's the side it should happen on. Towards the outside, not towards the inside. So I'm going to skip ahead and lay the rest of it out. An edge like this where I have the right side toward my inside, I got to flip every piece, so don't forget, got to flip those. Some of these interior walls, I've got a side that I want the walls to face. Alright, there's the basic outline. Go ahead and pause the video there and copy that. And next step is putting pillars. So I'm gonna start pillaring these. I'm putting them 4 tall. These are all mostly decorative. I like the way it looks. Add a little bit of visual complexity to the walls to make them look a little more interesting and break up the the monotony of the just plain stone walls. So I've got pillars, and I've also got a lot of extra decorative dino gates like that to make the walls look a lot nicer. And also these pillars help cover up the overlap and underlap issues on some of the corners, like the one I just did. Also, there's a couple extra pillars here that are important. Don't forget these. Even though these get covered up by dino gates, you still want them for the second story later. And there's a nice zoom out. Almost all the pillars that you need are shown here, except for I forgot a couple that are in the middle. That'll come up later. And I'm going to put some dino gates in. I like to put that one tech because that's the main one I go in and out of a lot. I don't use tech for every gate, just pretty much the high traffic ones, because I mostly like the look of the stone. It looks more friendly. Skipping along, putting in all the gates. Some of these will face in, some will face out. Most of them face out, except for a couple that are like for the garden and the industrial forge area. The ones near that both face in. We'll zoom out on this in a second. Yeah, if I played this at normal speed, we'd already be 30 minutes in, so that's why I'm skipping a lot of this. It's a very long video. It took a lot of time otherwise. Alright, so yeah, that one's an inward facing. Most of them are outward facing. The one inside the garden is inward facing, but on the outside it's outward facing. There's another zoom out. The two dino gates in the foyer area, they both face out into the workshop and into the kitchen. Next stage is to put in the walls, and I try to snap these walls to the fence foundation itself, which is just a tiny bit higher. I don't think it's super important that you line them up just right, but I'm kind of a stickler about some of these details, so I try to line up every wall on the fence foundation itself. That sits at a tiny bit higher, and it should line everything up, you know, at the same height at, you know, on the top. But you know, you don't have to worry so obsessively about these kind of details, but I generally do, because the diagonal ones, they have to be on the fence foundation. So if you don't do the ones that are on the square angles on the fence foundations also, you can sort of notice a slight difference, and it kind of causes an issue in the bedrooms later with the doorway heights, unless you line them up just right. So you can still duck through the doorways, but I don't like to, so I try to be real careful about snapping everything to the fence foundations, even on the square angles. And there's a handful of doorways for convenience. I'll zoom out for that later. You don't need all the doorways because there's still the giant dino gates, but I like to have extra doorways because it looks nicer and it's a little more convenient. This area here, I kind of futz with. I'm kind of particular about the look of this spot here, and I'm missing a pillar here, so I got to put the pillar in. This is a, you know, that's a high traffic ramp right there. You're constantly going down to the dino gate, the dino hangar from that ramp, so I like to look sharp. And now I've got all the bottom ones down, so I'm gonna carry all these walls up. On some of these I'll go with wood and glass just to make it look, you know, different, have some different looks, makes it look more interesting instead of just flat stone walls. You can use different styles, you know, use whatever style you like. I generally use this wood style where if I'm not in any, if I don't have any concern of dinos coming and smashing stuff, I'll use the wood and glass. But if I'm in a situation where there's a concern that some of them might be smashed, I'll use stone instead. Like when I was on Aberration, my base was in an area where animals could spawn somewhat close to the base and possibly attack the lower levels, so I used stone instead. But on this design here, I pretty much always use the wood and glass because nothing's getting up here unless you lure it here. Which I actually did try to catch a griffin inside the foyer area of this base design once, and it smashed everything all the way through the walls. You wouldn't think so, but it was totally blocked off. There was no line of sight to any of these other rooms, like the garden or anything, but it smashed all the glass across the whole base from that center area there. Anyway, there's a zoom out. You can see all the walls. You can see some of the doorways. And have a look around. I've got, it's mostly symmetrical, except for the ramp area. I generally have a smaller door over near the ramp. Anyway, the next stage is going to be putting the ceilings on this, which is also the floor for the second level. Alright, from this point forward, it starts to get more complicated. The ceiling of this level, which is the floor for the next level, it's got to be laid out just right, or else you can't put the walls up and the ceilings of that level don't overlap right. So let's get up there. First I put this backstop in on the bottom here and a spiral. I like the wood, but if you just have the spiral here only, you can get stuck in that corner. So I put this like extra little back piece there. There's a couple of snaps for this spiral piece. You want the one that kind of overlaps like this. There's another one I think that's set further into the wall. You don't want that one. And now we're up here. This area, some of these pieces, they won't snap the way you would think. They won't overlap the ceilings the right way. So what I try to do is I try to start in that far corner. But I don't have the right stuff on the bar. But that corner right there, I try to start over there because this will snap onto the right wall that I want. But I got the wrong one. See, the ceiling, the wood ceiling goes the wrong way. So I snap it on the other one. Now I should be able to follow that snap over the foyer area here. I like to go with the wood here, and I like to lay them this direction also. It looks nicer. Okay, so now I'm gonna start covering over these rooms here. This is where it's got to be done just the right way. So copy this exactly. I'm gonna run this at normal speed. So I go one row along the back, basically one row along the whole edge here. That's wrong. You see these are lining up just perfectly on top of each other, overlapping. Now here's the important part next is this next row of ceilings, you snap them from the outer wall. I'm just double checking something right there. But yeah, you snap these from the outer wall. It's very important. You see that's going from the far one out, not the closer one. That part right there doesn't matter so much. But yeah, the outer, again, this one here is going to snap to the outer wall, not the inner wall. See that? I snapped it from across the way ceiling, not the closer one. You need at least two like that. That's important for later. And then we just do the same thing on this side. Go one around, and then you carry the ceiling across from the outer edge, overlap towards the towards the inside. Don't snap from the inside out, you snap from the outside in. Here we go. See, this is snapping from the outside towards the inside. That's very important. You gotta have at least two right there. So that's the important bit. This part here doesn't really matter. This is going to be on the outside. Anyway, that's that. That'll make a big difference in a little while when we get to it. I'm also going to go ahead and put the vaulted glass ceilings on right here. I put wood down first because these sloped pieces, these sloped greenhouse pieces right here, I'm snapping these to the towards the inside. So they're actually snapping on the inside. They're snapping on this inside corner of the wood here on both sides. See how it's blue? You want the one that's blue tinted, not that green tinted. You want the blue tinted. That's actually snapped onto the wood itself right now, but since it's close enough to the stones, outside snap, whenever we remove the wood, it will stay up. So I do that on both sides, and then I go ahead and put a piece. I'll get to that in a second. Put some of these down. Get to the sloped. I'm going to put these on. I'm going to put each of these onto the sloped ceilings. Onto the sloped walls there. Now I can remove these, and this side, it's not surprising that it would stay because it's just stacked right on top of the wall below anyway. But on this side, it's technically snapped to this wood wall here, but it's close enough with the overlap of the stones, so it'll stay. And take all the rest of this out, and do the slope ceilings on both sides first, so they line up nice on the visible edges. If they don't line up perfectly on this, this piece here, it's not even noticeable. You won't notice, but you'll notice if they don't line up on the corner, on the outside corner. But yeah, if you do them in the right order, it'll line up. And let's see, that's about it for this stage. Alright, so I'm also going to do this awning area over the industrial forge. There's a very, very specific order of operations you need to do it in, or it won't work. And I couldn't remember what it was, so I did it all wrong. And you'll see me kind of fumbling back and forth. But the correct order is you put a fence foundation over on this corner that's coming up in a second. You can see some of it I've already got down. But otherwise I'm doing the same trick where I put the ceilings down and snap to their inside edge facing inward, so that it looks nice and clean. But see that spot right there, I've got a fence foundation. You need to put that down first. Then you put these temporary ceilings in that you can snap to the inner edge. Then you put the corner pillar, which I have not put in, so I've done it wrong. I've pre-recorded all this. So I think about now is when I'm realizing I got to take this down. Put this angled pillar right there. That's snapped onto a fence foundation on the edge. Then I put the walls. But actually, all of this is in the wrong order because you need to put the industrial forge down first, and I forgot. I didn't do that. So I'll get to that later, and I got to backtrack a little bit. So ideally, you want to put the industrial forge in. And I'll show how to do that at just the right angle coming up. Then you put the fence foundation on the edge. Then you put the temporary ceilings down. Then you put the pillar down. Then you put the walls down. Then you put these vaulted ceilings on. That all comes after the industrial forge. So I got to backtrack a little bit, but you'll still see all the steps. That one right there needs to be 5 high so that it lines up there. And then it'll appear to be supporting this roof, and it looks real nice. I like to put corners 5 high also. Anyway, so that's that look right there. Kind of looks like it's supporting the roof. Looks really nice. I think right around now is when I go and test if I can actually put the industrial forge in, and find out that I cannot. So let's have a look at that. What I do here is I try to use a crosshair, either from the extended info. The extended info HUD has a crosshair now since Genesis. You see that crosshair? And try to line it up at the closest corner right at your feet, and then try and line it up at a distant corner exactly 45 degrees away. And then whenever you place your thing down, it'll be pretty close to 45 degrees. So I'm trying to line it up, and it's not working out because the ceilings are in the way. So I'm going to take some of these out. And of course it's raining. There's not a code to turn off the rain on the center, so I'm just going to have to deal with it. Try and line up your your 45 degrees again. The further away you aim, the more accurately you'll be towards the 45 degrees, but that's good. That's good enough. Oh, you can also do this where you go into orbit cam, and you can see exactly how far back it goes. That can be really handy for lining things up. The further down you look, the closer the orbital cam will place the object from you. So I look down a little bit more, and now I can line it up by the back edge there too. So we can line it up. I can see exactly how much the overlap is, and there it is. Just don't. You can't actually change your side-to-side aim while you're in orbit cam. Okay, so now I've got that down. That's exactly where I want it. And now I can put the vaulted roof over it. It'll actually overlap through it a little bit, but it's hard to notice, and I don't really care. And that's that look. Looks pretty good. Gonna wait out the rain. Alright, now we're to the top level. This is the bedrooms. You know, you put your characters, your tribe mates, your alts, put some beds down. I also have extra storage, like long-term, like deep storage for like cryopods and stuff like that up here, which I barely ever use, or I plan to not really use anytime soon, like old kibble tames and stuff like that. I'll put them in some cryo fridges up here at this level, kind of out of the way. You also needed to have put the pillars in between the two dino gates downstairs in order to get this snap right here. That's why I made a note of that. So you go too high on the back, and it vaults into the middle here. It goes up to 3 and then 4 high, and then 2 high in the front. I couldn't put the pillar down where I wanted it, so I got to go back down here and take this out and put the pillar in. I need a pillar right there, and then I put this stuff back in. I forgot that one in one of the earlier stages. So now I can carry this all the way up. 4 high. Alright. So now this corner coming up right there is a tricky one, because it's coming from 2 different angles, and I want the pillars and the walls to all overlap. I couldn't remember exactly how I did it, so I kind of experiment around here a little bit, and I make a couple of mistakes. I'll point them out as it plays through so that you don't copy them. Later on I correct them, but you basically need fence foundations here, right in the middle, in order to put pillars down on this wall here, because it has no support below. And there's going to be a pillar right here at that angle, and there's going to be a wall that overlaps into it. I also like to have pillars at the end of that fence foundation right there. But that one right there, that third one, don't put that one down. You don't need that one. That actually causes problems. I take it out later. But yeah, this corner right here is the tricky one, and like I said, I couldn't remember exactly how I do it, so I experiment a couple ways, and you'll see what I'm talking about. If you build it like on a normal 90-degree off the ceiling right there in front of me, it won't fit into the pillar. And if you use the wrong snap, or the fence foundation is in the wrong direction, either the wall will be in the wrong direction or it won't snap into the pillar. So yeah, here's what we're up against. We need a wall to fit into this pillar. So here's what you do. You take a piece of ceiling and you snap it like that off the edge. Then you take a fence foundation, and you want to snap this fence foundation onto that new wooden ceiling. So it's the furthest left snap, and it's hard to see them, so I changed the daytime. There's 1, 2. Okay, that's the one. See, it's the furthest left. It's hard to see because it's overlapping in, and I'm using wood because they're, you know, they're the least profile. Now you can put that one on the diagonal fence foundation. You put your wall right there, and I got it backwards. So you reverse it, and that's actually as good as I'm gonna get. I thought I could do better, so I ended up taking this down, but that's what you're looking for. See how it's overlapping into the pillar on both sides? No gaps. That's as good as it's gonna get. Alright, so over to the other side. Again, skip this piece right here. You don't need this piece right here. But you put these in the middle. Alright, so that's the pillars. Now I'm going to put some walls in. I like to go with stone facing where the outside edge is, towards this like central room here. Put some windows on some of these big panels. Stone on the corners, more windows. Again, see, this is the one I didn't need. I'm taking it out. Unfortunately, the pillar was pinned to it, so I gotta put the pillar back. On these walls that are on this fence foundation here, or near the fence foundation, I'm gonna go for the lower snap. So the lower snap here, which is basically the ceiling snap. That's it. And this one here, it's obvious because the fence foundation's facing the other direction. So that one. More walls, putting lots of walls in. Taking this one out, didn't need it. The lower snap on those. Alright. Now we need to put the sloped wall pieces on. Also right here, we're going to need a sloped wall piece around here, so these are temporary. These doorways are temporary to support it. These sloped wall pieces, they're actually backwards from what they appear to be. Like, it looks like you're looking at the outside, but it's actually the inside. So keep that in mind. And you'll see these don't line up on the peak. There's a reason for that. You'll see in a bit. See how that's lower and this is higher? You'll see why in a sec. Okay, now we can put the sloped ceilings on here. The sloped ceilings are actually what supports that piece that's right under there. And I'm not sure if the snap point matters here. I think if they're close enough, it still counts as snapped. But I ended up taking this down and replacing it in a different order just to be on the safe side. I don't think it matters, but if you go and do this part and later on when you remove the temporary supports, if it collapses, just copy the exact same way I'm doing it. I took it back down and I start on this side instead, because normally the ceiling will snap on an interior facing wall right over, exactly over it. So I'll just carry that across, and it should count as everything being snapped together. So now I should be able to remove this without the archway breaking, and it stayed. That's what you want. See how that stayed up? Alright. Now also I want to have a I'm putting some temporary pieces right here. These are also temporary for this window. It's like a skylight sort of window up here. This is why these don't line up together. I'm going to put a little window in there and put some sloped ceilings here. And I'm not exactly sure which one of these ceilings counts as supporting that window up there, but if they're all put in the right order and they're all close enough snaps, it will stay up and leave a little window up there. Looks really cool. There it is. Check that out. Now this part here, I like to have a window right here and kind of separate this little balcony area. And then I have this like propped awning here over top. See these two extra pillars that reach extra high? There's like a little awning that I prop up over it. But in order to get it there, I gotta put that there temporarily. And make sure you get the right snap. See, I like to snap this way where it kind of matches the sloped roofs. And then I can put this back. And there it is. It looks like it's propped up. That's what I was going for. Alright. And right on cue it starts raining. But yeah, that's what we want so far. I'm going to continue the roof. Skip ahead a little so it's not raining. And let's continue these roofs. Oh, also there's a part of the roof here which has to kind of bridge a gap, and I like it to be snapped from the side here so that I get the right direction. See, I'm gonna put a regular flat ceiling here. This doesn't actually need to be on the build at all. Regular flat ceiling here, but if you prop it off the side that was already there, it won't go the right way. I want it to go that way because that way matches the sloped ceilings. So that's why I have a temporary, piece of wall that I get up there with so that I can snap it in that direction. I'm going to do it on this side too, temporary support, so I can get the right snap. Take that off. Now, once I've got it snapped that way, it'll still count as supported from the regular wall, so I can take this out and it'll stay. But it wouldn't let me snap it that way, the direction I wanted. That's why I needed the temporary. Alright, so those two cover some gaps that we'd otherwise have. Now we can continue with the sloped ceilings. And these they don't align perfectly, but you really can't hardly tell unless you're looking at just the wrong angle. Then you could actually see tiny gaps, but otherwise while you're in or flying around, it's hard to notice some of the gaps and overlaps. They come together pretty well. There's not really any light coming in, and you can overlap these in only one direction, so keep that in mind. See these sloped ceilings? You might run into a case where you can't overlap them. If you do, just take the other one off, like so, and then put them in the other order. So put that one first, and that one. Yeah, because they can overlap, but only in one direction. So here's another one where I gotta do it in the other order. And there it is. And that should complete the roof. Look at that. Pretty good. You can hardly see gaps. There's a bit of overlap, but it's not too noticeable or ugly. Otherwise it just looks real nice. And here's those walls that I was talking about. I ended up redoing this. See, now if I just place it in there like normal, you can see it's real ugly on the inside. I don't like that. So I'm going to end up doing pretty much the same steps I did before. Get a good look at this. You want to snap that one right there where it's overlapped at an angle coming out the edge, and you want to get this on the furthest out snap, the furthest to the left. It's hard to see. That was it. Oop, that was it actually. Now take this off. The snap will the piece will stay because it's supported. And that's the wall that I want right there. You can see it. The edges are pretty much in the pillars. And you can go and look at it from the outside. Check the ceiling. And it should totally fit with just on the edge, with no gap. It fits in all the pillars. That's about as clean as it's gonna get. That's pretty clean. It looks a little strange, but that's what you're looking for. It doesn't have any gaps. So I'm going to do it on this side. Watch it again. Get that one right there. Whoops, that was it. That one. And you want to get the fence foundation on the farthest out. There's 3. It's hard to make sure you're on the right one. See, that was the furthest right, so this other one that we had earlier is the furthest left. And you got to get the right direction. That's it. Nice clean overlap just on the edge. Alright, so that's the roof and that's the walls for the upstairs. Now I'm going to go ahead and put some doors in on all these doorways. I want a doorway right there. Won't let me put it there. Put it from that side. Put in all the doors. Put in some railings. The railings are pretty straightforward. You just go around the edge and it cleans up some of the rough edges. Just makes it look nicer. I put a window in these bedrooms with a greenhouse glass window. Nice little window. Put some railings on the inside here on the second story around the railing. I put a wood one there, stone one there. Put some rail on the balcony. Keep going around the edge. I like to make the pillars a little taller on these corners. And that is the railing. That's it. That's pretty much the finished structure of the build there. Looks pretty awesome. I really like this build. I go through and paint it too. I like to go green on the ceilings, and I like to go with a lot of earth tones on the rest of it, like tangerine and brown. Those are my favorites. But feel free to paint it whatever colors you like. If you want to see how to furnish it, check my tour videos. I made a couple of tour videos about this base already. It shows how to furnish it. So I'm not going to make a video about that. You're also going to need to run water pipes and electricity in there. It's pretty straightforward and easy, especially now that there's flex pipes. You can get really precise, and you can really hide them all in the floors and walls. Everything's so much easier now with the flex pipes, so keep that in mind. But yeah, go ahead and check the tour. Generally, I have this is the greenhouse. This is the kitchen right here. You can rearrange it however you like, but that's the way I do it. Down here's the dyno hanger. I don't really put any devices or anything like that in there. And this is my workshop usually. I put some storage vaults in here too, and outside next to that forge I put a bunch of vaults and dedicated storage. And this is mostly just decorative up here. I put a couple of cryo fridges right here in that corner behind me for long-term storage. This is the master bedroom. I usually put a big bed against the wall in there. And enjoy the views. Yeah, that's where I put the bed. Anywho, yeah, you can furnish it however you want, or check the tour if you want to copy mine. I'll probably do another version of this, finishing it up with on an ocean platform, because there's a couple of restrictions on ocean platforms. There's a couple of support changes. So I might have one more video showing those differences, but otherwise that's a wrap for it. So hope y'all enjoyed it. Have a good one. See you around.